Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about canine socialization and body language. I'm Megan Payne, a trainer with All the Dog Things, and I just want to give a brief overview of some things that you should be looking for when talking about socialization. Socialization isn't always what we think it is, and there's a lot that goes into it. So here we go. First thing is what socialization is not. Socialization is not just contact, not just group play, and not just exposure. A lot of times we think that throwing our dog into a doggy play group or throwing our dog into the dog park or the puppy next door, the dog next door, just putting them into that situation and saying, go play, is socialization. It's not. Socialization is also not just having a bunch of people come up and pet your dog. There are ways to make these things part of socialization, but it's not just, I take my dog a bunch of places, I have a bunch of people pet my dog, I have my dog play with a bunch of dogs, and they're socialized. There's a lot that goes into it. So, what socialization is allowing the dog to experience and interact with many different environments. And this is the key part, in a safe way. And when I say in a safe way, that means in a safe way according to your dog, not according to you. Your dog might be shying away from a person and you're telling them, oh no, Fluffy, go visit them. They're safe. What are you so worried about? Your dog is saying that they do not feel safe. So listen to your dog and what they're telling you. Because if you put your dog into that situation where they're not feeling safe, you can actually be creating a negative feeling towards people. And your dog is also not going to trust you to be keeping them safe. So the animal should always have control over the situation. The animal should decide who they get to approach, who they get to play with, what is safe to them. And they should always enjoy these interactions. If they're not all wiggly, loose-bodied dogs, then they're probably not enjoying the situation. And just because their tail is wagging does not mean they are happy. Dogs wag their tails for many reasons. Some of them are even anxiety. So don't just assume, well, their tail's wagging, they must be happy. We need to take a look at the body language. We need to see that loose, wiggly behavior. Socialization checklist. So there's a lot of things, and you can Google socialization checklists for dogs. There's a ton of things to be exposing your new puppy to in a safe manner. So kind of think about the things that your dog will experience through their lifetime. If you're in a colder climate, such as I am, your dog's going to come across people in hats, whether that be winter hats, ball caps, cowboy hats, the full face ski masks, those sorts of things, jackets. Jackets are poofy and they make more noise and they have long sleeves, which are fun for puppies to chew on, and they completely change how our body looks to the dog. Different types of people, so different races, different genders, different heights, different types of hairstyle, different facial hair, all those things. Noises. What types of noises might your dog hear throughout their life? There's some apps to expose your dogs to noises if those aren't readily available in the environment or are not in the environment in a way that you can keep your dog safe while hearing these. So you can download sound apps, you can use YouTube, but think of things such as fireworks, car doors, trucks going by, horns, doorbell, knocking. You have children, the sound of children, or even if you don't have children, your dog may encounter children. So the noises they make, try and rack your brain for the noises in the environment that you live in and the environment that you may plan to take your dog to. Another one would be trains or emergency vehicles, those sorts of things, thunderstorms. You can get all of these sounds on YouTube, sound apps, and naturally in the environment. Surface textures is another big one with puppies. We've all seen dogs who are great on carpet, but you ask them to go onto a hard wood surface or tile surface and they kind of just freeze because they don't know what to do. It's slippy. They're not sure about it. So exposing your dog to different surface textures, you can do this by having little squares of different textures at home and doing some training games with your dog, just interacting with those textures. Other animals. What other animals is your dog going to come across? Dogs is probably the big one, but they may also come across cats, or if you have rabbits or rats or exotic animals, what types of other animals might your dog be seeing or potentially needing to interact with? Handling is another one. Your dog is going to have to go to the vet, especially as a puppy. So we can do husbandry techniques to prepare them for that. But at the very basic level would be, doing things where you play with their ears, play with their feet, play with their tail, kind of lift their skin a little bit, simulating, tenting for like a vaccine, lifting their lips to see their teeth, those sorts of things that in case your animal ever gets an ear infection or trimming their nails, things like that, and your vet's going to have to handle all the parts of your dog's body. So turning it into a fun game where you're practicing some of these handling things can really help down the line. I do have a video on teaching how to help your dog be okay with this sort of handling. If your puppy's a little bit nervous about you touching those areas, if they kind of move away, don't push it. Go see that video and try some other techniques. But if your puppy is tolerating it okay, especially when they're really young, you can just do a little bit of I touch your ear and I play with you and here's your toy and turn it into a fun game. Different places. Where do you plan to take your dog? Your dog's probably, obviously going to have to go to the vet. Go to the vet. Spend some time just sitting in the waiting room and getting treats. Make it a really positive thing. Pet store, same thing. If you ever intend to take your dog there. If you intend to take your dog out of the house at all for walks, start getting them out to different places, but do it in a very controlled manner and make these things highly reinforcing. That is the biggest thing with the socialization checklist and socialization in general. The dog needs to feel safe and it needs to be highly rewarding for them. We want to build a positive association with all of these things. So, impact of socialization. Poor socialization can lead to shyness, aggression, anxiety, and fear. Those socialization is not the only thing that plays into that. There's also genetic factors, environmental, but we can do our part on the socialization side to kind of combat some of these. What is your dog telling you? Here is an excellent little infographic by the amazing Lily Chin. You can check out some bigger versions of these at Doggy Drawings, the little website listed there. But dogs communicate with us through their body, and we need to know how to read that so that way we can respond to our dog's needs. Watch your dog. See what your dog is telling you. Learn the signs that your dog is not comfortable. Some dogs have more subtle signs than others. Some dogs who have pricked ears carry them pricked all of the time, and it might just be a very subtle shift in that is saying they're not comfortable. Or some dogs have, the droopy ears, and it's harder to see when they pull those back as a sign that they're not comfortable. Some other ones, a yawn when they're not tired. So if they haven't slept in a while and they're yawning and you can kind of see they're slowing down, they're probably tired. If they just woke up, they're probably yawning to kind of shake that off, kind of like we do as humans. But yawning outside of a normal situation is a stress response. It's a type of calming signal. A nose lick or a lip lick, your dog's tongue comes pretty much kind of straight out, may touch their nose. This is almost like a little snake behavior. It's different than if your dog had just eaten or drank some water, where the tongue would go fully across the front of their mouth. So it'd go from one side of their face to the other side of the face. The lip lick or nose lick is a straight out behavior. If you're watching for these things, that's a sign that there's some sort of stressor going on, and they're giving a calming cue. They're giving a cue to you and a cue to whatever is that stressor in the environment. Sniffing the ground is an avoidance, calming sort of behavior. Sniffing is naturally calming for other dogs, but it's also a way for them to tell other dogs, hey, I'm just sniffing over here. I don't mean any harm. Everything is cool. Just kind of, leave me alone. It's also something that a dog might do if they're a little stressed in their environment. You might have your dog, they've been in a particular room where they've been in your house for a very long time, and all of a sudden a spot on the wall or a spot on the rug becomes suddenly interesting and they must go sniff it. This is a calming signal, and the signal that your dog is experiencing some sort of stressor. Whale eye, that's another one. A huge cue that your dog needs space. If you can see the whites of your dog's eyes, definitely just back off and give them some space. Scratching, unless your dog has a particular allergy or just had a bath, things like that. Scratching, kind of taken out of a normal context of scratching, is a sign of stress. You'll see this fairly often, and people just think, oh, my dog's itchy or whatever. It's probably stress, unless there's some sort of environmental allergy or something like that going on. Stress release is a shake-off. You'll see this a lot, especially when dogs are playing. They'll play for a little bit, and in a good play session, they'll play, they'll have loose bodies, they'll be all wiggly and happy, and then they'll take a break and they'll shake off, they'll go separate direction for a little bit, and then they'll come back and play. Those are just a few of the things to look for. There's a book called Calming Signals by Rugrass, I believe it is, that is a really great resource for this sort of thing. There's all sorts of body language resources out there. Go to clickertraining.com, go to the Pet Professional Guild, go to IAABC and take a look at the things they have there, and go to Lily Chin's website to take a look. Just spend time watching your dog. Learn what is normal for them, learn what is abnormal for them, and just be on the lookout for these calming signals. So that kind of wraps up this short little overview. The biggest takeaways are protect your dog, manage the environment so that your dog is having a positive experience, and a positive experience on their terms. Definitely the more distractions in the environment, the higher your reinforcement is going to need to be, and the better your reinforcement is going to need to be. And definitely, using kibble out for a walk is probably not going to be super valuable to your dog. You're probably going to need something that's a little bit better than that, something a little more stinky and delicious to be an effective reinforcer and motivator in that situation. So definitely just get to know your dog's body language. Be the, helicopter parent for your dog. Not saying don't have people come and touch them. Not saying don't have them interact with other dogs. Do those things, but do it in a very controlled manner. Let your dog approach another person. If your dog isn't comfortable with that, just have the person toss them a treat from afar and leave. If your dog is, with other dogs, they don't necessarily need to be having a play session to be being socialized, or whatever we want to call it. It can be, seeing a dog and being reinforced for proper behavior in the presence of a dog, and getting used to the fact that seeing dogs is normal and seeing dogs is cool. And if I kind of, hang here, my human's going to reinforce me for that, and dogs bring good things. So, that dog across the street is a good thing. Dogs bring me reinforcers. Same with people. Same with places. Keep those things and those sessions short and heavily monitored. We want positive experiences here, especially depending on the age of your puppy. If they're within that fear period, which is usually around the time the puppy is starting to come into a home, a negative interaction can do a lot of damage that you'll have to work to kind of repair later on. So just be aware of those things. Socialization is very important, and I think as a people we know that. It's just we need to have a proper understanding of what socialization is. It's keeping our dogs safe and giving them positive experiences that are varied and that are encompassing of what they will come to experience in their life. So if you guys have questions on socialization, drop them down below in the comments here, and I will try and answer them. This was a very high-level overview, and if you have questions about fear periods or things like that, go ahead and drop those down there too, and I can point you to some further resources. All right. Enjoy your dogs.